live in what you think is a good neighborhood. He went to a good school. We thought his friends were so good for him. And still, your son becomes a junkie. Why?
And I thought that it was like heaven, and it was a beautiful place to bring up children. I kept telling myself, and everybody told me. I just don't know why it happened.
Never did I think she would go to drugs. Why?
And I didn't really think that drugs would hit the suburbs.
We thought that we were bringing our daughter up in a good place and that we were doing the right things. I can still remember clearly what she was like as a baby. First of all, she was very beautiful. And I found that I could always cuddle her and hug her. And I remember once saying to Jack, she's never going to give us any trouble.
Everywhere as I went, to ball games, to sporting events, to playing baseball, I used to drag Michelle along.
Well, I always wanted to be close to my children because I didn't have that from my mother. But it didn't work out that way.
It wasn't really the things that she was doing wrong, because she, up until she started with drugs, she never really did anything, you know, really bad.
The first time I did any drugs, I was 14.
I said to my husband, I said, I don't know. I said, Michelle just isn't acting right. She became very hostile. She'd stay in her room for a long period of time, but we had no idea. But I think drugs was always in my mind, but I had no proof, so I couldn't confront her. And this went on for quite a while, and then one night I happened to pass her room, and I overheard a phone conversation, and she mentioned the fact that she was using drugs.
And my mother was standing outside listening to the whole conversation. She claims that she was passing by and she heard me mention, you know, something about getting high.
Well, I've got to do something, and I walked into the room and I confronted her.
So she came tearing into the room, you know, rips the phone out of my hand and starts screaming at me. So, like, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't say it was me, so I told her we were talking about some kid I knew.
I said, well, if that's the case, I said, then I'd like you to call back the person you were talking to, and I'd like to know what he has to say.
She didn't buy it at all. So she got really excited, you know.
And I grabbed her, and I said to her, now, you better tell me everything. And she started to tell me what she had been using, pot and LSD and speed, and I almost passed out. I don't remember if I cried, but all I kept thinking about, how am I going to tell Jack? What is he going to do? I said, well, we're going to have to tell your father. And I went into the room and I said to Michelle, I have something to tell you pertaining to drugs. Please don't get upset and don't do anything that's going to hurt her. And I can't remember everything except that he did go into the room.
I got very violent. I grabbed her and I almost threw her out the window.
And he started to beat the hell out of me.
I hit her and I almost killed her.
And all they were interested in was, did I do dope, you know? And I said, no, I never did that, you know? I swore up and down I never did it.
So she seemed all right for about 3 months. She worked, she went to school, and she kept good hours, and the problem didn't, in fact, I was almost convinced that 6 months was all she needed.
So I decided after like 6 months I had it.
But then the old behavior pattern came back again, the hostility, not eating, staying up all night, closing the bathroom door, not letting us in, constantly taking baths.
And I hung out with all these freaky acid freaks. And, you know, we used to dance all the time and go to the Fillmore. And, you know, who could do the most acid, you know, who could do the most speed and acid at the same time, you know. We really tried to kill each other almost.
And finally we got up one morning and we said, okay, Michelle, you're going into court. We've had it.
So, like, I was kind of in shock. You know, I couldn't believe, like, they really were putting me away. You know, like, they threatened me so many times, but, you know, they're really doing it this time.
And, of course, that's one day of my life I don't think I will ever, ever forget, because when I came into court, when I came in to see the probation officer, I said to her, look, I don't know what Michelle is telling you, but I'm not happy. I'm miserable. I'm tired of watching her. I'm tired of checking up. I just get the feeling that I'm going to find her dead someday, and I could never live with myself unless I did something to help this child because, you know, I really love her.
And it was so dramatic, you know, like my mother was sitting there crying and I was sitting there crying, you know.
Michelle was sitting outside and she turned around and she says, I hate your guts. She says, I hope you die. I hope I never see you again because you promised me you would never put me in a hospital. I says, Michelle, I'm only doing this because I love you and I want to help you.
And they put me up in this detention room. You know, they wouldn't let me see my mother. I wanted to see her, but I kept saying I don't want to see her.
We went before the judge, and he heard the story, and he turned around and he said to me, you mean just because she took drugs, you want her committed to a hospital? And with that, the intake probation officer turned around and she says, but Judge, she took 20 trips of LSD. And with that, he turned around to Michelle. He says, okay. He said, I hereby commit you to Elmhurst General Hospital.
And they handcuffed me. I said, what are these for? You know, they said, well, in case you get crazy, you know.
And they took her, and they handcuffed her, and they dumped her in an ambulance. And I didn't know if I'd ever see my kid again.
And, you know, and the way I was to Elmhurst General Hospital.
I came home, I looked in her room, and I says, I feel like I went to a funeral. I feel like I'm never going to see my kid again.
And I walk into a psycho ward, man, and they're watching a movie. You know, all these crazy people.
The one thing that I feared most was having her taken away from me.
And I just started to cry. You know, like I didn't know what to do. So, you know, they locked the doors behind me, the whole scene. I turned around and looked at it. They locked the door. I didn't stay locked up in a psycho ward very long. When I got out, my parents helped me get into a drug rehabilitation center, where I found help, a new kind of family, with people of my own age who had the same type of problems as I had, who could listen to me and understand me. My parents spoke to the director of a treatment center, and then to other parents who had kids in the program. They kept asking themselves why, you know. They thought their story was so unique until they spoke to other parents and found out that it wasn't.
I mean, every other kid used to hear stories, but my kid, no, never.
I didn't think in a million years that my children would use drugs. There was no reason in the world for my children to use drugs.
You know, not my daughter.
My son looks like an angel. And everybody kept telling me what a good boy he was.
I said, you gotta be kidding. I'm a policeman, and I dealt with children that had this problem. I never thought this could happen to me.
And I think it was like that with, you know, with my mother and my father. They were both, you know, they were kidding themselves, you know, thinking that I was, you know, their little angel.
Well, the first drugs that I ever took was cough medicine. I started from drinking.
And I started off sniffing glue.
Smoking pot after about a year or so.
Then I went on to diet pills.
After, like, the first year of, like, the glue and the pot and the carboner, I got introduced to barbiturates, you know, the downs, goofballs. And I started using them quite often, as much as I could get them. And then
somebody turned me on to acid.
In the middle of 7th grade, I started snorting speed. Then I went from goofballs right into stuff, you know. And I was shooting stuff for about 2.5, 3 years.
And then I went into cocaine. I started snorting cocaine. Then I seen they were starting to use the needle. Everybody was scared of a needle, and I felt if you could get high, I would go through the changes for anything, needle, anything. Then I started shooting heroin.
Well, my other friends were doing it, so
I guess I started about, you know, the 3rd, 4th grade in elementary school. I got the stuff from, you know, 8, 9-year-old kids in my class.
All the kids, like, everybody looked up to me, because, like, I turned them all on. You know, I was the first one to turn them on. You know, I said, you know, like the whole crowd, like, you know, everybody, like they smoked pot a few times and stuff, but I was turning them on to speed and goofballs. I thought I was, like, really nice.
But in high school, you had people who were into drugs, you know, or into everything, and, like, you got to know all these people and, like, get involved in more things.
And
You know, you go into the park. It's like, you know, you can get anything you want. You just go into the specific crowds. You go to the junkies, you get the dope. You know, you go to the freaky people, you know, the acid freaks and the speed freaks, and you get your speed. Then you go to the, you know, the potheads, you know. You go to the teeny boppers and you cop your hash or your grass. You know, it's just like you knew whatever you wanted, you got it, you know. I had to be like, you know, with the people, you know, with the crowd.
Like a follow leader type thing, you know?
People started to accept me. And I need to be accepted.
And I wanted to be accepted.
To like me, you know, I wanted to be like the people I was with, you know. So I got high, you know, like everybody else was.
You know, and be like the dynamite person that starts everything, you know. I started my sister, you know. She used to come home at night and used to talk to me at night, you know, when she was on it, and I used to stay with her. Figured it was beautiful to have somebody younger and somebody, you know, to start getting high with me. I used to try to be like her, and, you know, I wanted to shoot dope too, you know. I used to stay with her and her friends and just wanted to sit there and be quiet. And I'd say, you know, let me sit here and I'll watch. You know, I'll be good. You know, I just wanted to share it. Because, like, it was special to me. It just made me feel good all the time.
Now, I asked my daughter, when was the first time you took anything? Well, if you can notice, I'm a little on the fat side. And I've had a weight problem all my life. And what I've been doing is going to the doctor and getting pills for weight control. And some of these pills are ups, as they know them today, which are Dexamils and Dexedrines, and then I have downers. I don't know the names of those anymore, but at the end of the day, I would take one of those to calm me down so I can go to sleep, not knowing that these were barbiturates of any kind. And this was a doctor's prescription. And eventually I'd chicken out and I'd go back to the doctor anymore, and I'd have partial bottles left. And I'd leave them in the medicine chest. And she started to take these pills. This is where she started with pills as pills go.
And I started doing pills. I was doing something called Nebutols. Because they were in my mother's medicine cabinet. You know, I was going through it one night. I was going out, and I was looking through her medicine cabinet. And, you know, I found them, and I took, like, one, because I didn't know what it was, so I was scared to take more. And, you know, I felt good. You know, I got a little dizzy, you know. And, like, just everything felt so nice. So I started doing more until I finished the prescription. And I guess my mother didn't know what happened to him. I guess she thought she took them.
Well, as the mother, I was not aware of my son being on drugs. The first thing that I became aware of that he had a school problem.
When we had first moved into this neighborhood, he had taken up with a group of boys his age, basketball and the bike riding and everything. And suddenly, these boys were on the out with him. And I started to see strange faces coming into the house.
1 million kids a day come to the doors. Alan home is Alan home. I said, gee, I got the most popular kid in the world.
All hours of the day and night, 5 or 6 boys at once, cars driving up, leaving, he's going out to talk to them.
His whole personality changed. From being a nice kind of kid who respected his elders, he turned into the kind of a kid who would curse me at the drop of a hat, particularly me. If I were to say to him, did you have a good time? This was cause for him to start screaming and yelling and ranting and raving about how I was running his life.
So you look at it and you say, he's growing up, he's maturing, he's this. You look a little bit away.
Came to a point that I couldn't support my habit. I had to go out stealing from my boss, my parents.
I never stole from my mother or father. I stole from everybody else.
Even the women, I used to take their bags. Anything to get money, that's all I could think about.
Going into department stores and stealing clothes and selling them, you know. They were never really for you, you know, like so you can wear them and look nice.
Like I used to break into my own house and like steal everything I could, cameras, rings, all the jewelry. I used to always steal. Like I used to get up before my father and rob his money.
My best friends, man, I was beating them because like we'd fight and, you know, the whole thing, just over like a bag of dope, we'd kill each other. You know, that's the point it got to, you know.
I can remember him asking me, how do you make a corncob pipe? And being so smart, I told him how to make a corncob pipe.
never thinking or wanting to even bring it into my head that here's a kid, don't smoke. What the hell does he want with a cork? Not to blow bubbles, I'm sure.
I tried to look for tracks, which I'd heard about. Only they're smarter, you see. They don't have to use their arm. There are many other places. I never thought of the back of his hand. It did occur to me once or twice that he was shaving the back of his hand. I couldn't imagine why.
I had boys sleep over. They ate at my house. I thought this was the way to, this was normal. I felt I would know what was going on. But I didn't know what was going on at all. Not at all.
And like every time my mother says, what's wrong with your eyes or something, I would say, oh, it's my allergies or something like that. You know, I always have some lame excuse, and she'd believe it.
I tell her I was tired, you know, because to me that was like the perfect alibi. I'm tired.
I was coming home whacked. You know, I come home, I trip over my sister. You know, I tell her I was drunk.
But like they knew, but they didn't want to accept it.
She would find needles, she would find pills, you know, and she would just say, not my son, he's too responsible to do something like that.
And we just it never dawned on me that he was buying, selling, or using. I didn't even know that at that point until one day we found a bag of marijuana in the house.
And as I was driving, a bag rolled from underneath the seat, and it hit me on the back of my foot.
A bag? I'm talking about about a size 10 grocery bag.
Sure enough, I opened the box and I saw a pipe, a silver pipe with some stuff in it, which later we found out was a hashish pipe and all kinds of pills.
We showed her the pill box, and she says, "What are those? They're not mine." And then when we told her we found it in her bedroom, "Oh, I'm holding it for a friend."
He says, "I didn't do nothing, Ma." I says, "You put a needle in your arm. What do you mean? It's not mine."
And when you find out what actresses and actors they are, and how they could, with a straight face, beautiful. The Academy Award, they deserve it. Every one of them.
I couldn't hold back, you know. I said, Ma, I'm shooting dope, I'm sick, you know. And she said, what do you mean, what do you mean? And I said, I'm sick right now. I've been shooting dope for the past 5 years, you know, and I have to have it every day, and I can't get it now. She screamed. She started crying. She said, I don't believe you. I don't believe it. She made me show him, you know, my tracks.
Then my father came home that night, you know, and, like, my mother says, we got an addict in the house. Like, my father, you know, he thought he didn't hear right, and my mother said it again, and, like my father almost, like, he went, like, berserk, you know.
And she just, like, walked away from me, like, really mad. Like, now I'm gonna, you know, get rid of you, because you're no good no more. And she went, you know, downstairs, locked all the doors, and I sat up in my room, like, and I was sick. And I didn't have nobody this time, not even my mother.
So I wanted to fight back as hard as I could, but I couldn't do it. I decided in that bathroom right then that was going to be it. And I slit my wrists.
And he was laying on his bed with the books, with his head down, and I saw that he was crying. So I said to him, Dennis, what's the matter? He said, nothing. I said, did I make you feel bad? He said, no. I said, Dennis, what's bothering you? He didn't want to tell me, but I could tell that he was very upset. I said, Dennis, is it drugs? He said, yes.
And he promised, of course, that's it, I'll straighten out.
He would never do it again. I'm sorry, Mommy, I'm sorry, Mommy. It was their first time and everything, and of course me, an idiot, believed it.
And all I was doing was playing games on them, you know, just a way of manipulating them for money and to live in their house, you know.
It was like one big circle, you know. You hang out, scheme how to get high, and then you just get high, right, and scheme again, and hang out. It's the same thing every day, you know. And there was never, like, you going out someplace and stuff, because it was always the same thing, you know. Never did anything else.
You know, it's crazy because you get busted. I just didn't care, like, if, you know, who's going to catch me?
Then I got busted again. They just kept coming one right after the other after I got busted the first time. I got about 5 right in a row. Bing, bing, bing. Really, about every 3 months, every 6 months. 9 times I was arrested. I just didn't have, no luck. Then I went to jail. Did 6 months on Rikers Island. And, like, I liked a lot. I met people there, They told me where to cop, things like that.
Everything in there was like, roaches, and there was like, lesbians. And butchers are always trying to come up to you and asking you, like, are you straight, are you gay or something?
I was bailed out, and I was given a choice, either program or back to jail.
And naturally going into a program was the easier thing for him to do.
And I chose the program, and here I am.
I know where the faults were. They were within me.
I more or less abdicated my family and giving of myself to them during their growing up period. Whether I could help myself or not, this is what I did. And by abdicating, I let my wife carry a ball that she had no business carrying.
He always got everything he wanted. Always. I never said no to this boy, but never did I ever say no to him.
Like, we did talk with our son and the other two, but we didn't really listen. We talked, and we didn't pay really that much attention because whatever he said, we already had preset ideas, and we weren't paying that much attention to what was coming from him.
I don't think we're really tuned in to them lots of times. I know that now. And I thought that I listened to Dennis. I thought I was always listening to him. I certainly was always jumping for him.
When he flagged for help, we weren't there to help him. And there were many times that he flagged for help. Telling me to make a corncob pipe. That's a flag. He wanted us to know. He did everything but spell it out.
He just didn't know how to deal with me at all. Like, the only time I was close to my father was when I was young. And I was a little tomboy. He'd take me to play baseball. And that was the extent of my relationship with my father. Like, he didn't know how to, he didn't know how to talk. He didn't know how to express his feelings. He just did it through violence. And I was, like, petrified of the man.
The kind of relationship I have with my mother is very, almost like you'd have with a chair, when you want to sit down, it's comfortable, but if you don't need it. It's like, the only time I speak to my mother is like, what's for dinner? Or like, don't bother me now, because I don't want to get into an argument with you. Because the only time we ever talk, we get into arguments,
Other people could always sit and talk to her. She could know, she's the ear on the block, everybody would always run her their problems. And blah, 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 this happened, and she was like, be lending ear, because like everybody wants an ear. But yet when it came to me, it just didn't happen.
And the fact that you did not communicate with them, that you what you said, that was it, and that's the way you felt about it, and whatever they were telling you, you give them material things, and the gold bicycle or the new doll or something, and that was supposed to make your kids feel good.
But I always get the feeling from him like he's trying to buy my love, and I hate that. Like he buys me everything, and I hate it. Like on the streets, I could have had anything I wanted, but I always would just want money, to get high. So that's all I got was money, and I got high.
My mother cleaned my room, my mother made my bed. They did my laundry, and they took my clothes to the cleaners for me.
You showered your kids with the material things that you thought would make them happy, but it really didn't. It's the realization that it isn't the material thing alone that makes somebody happy. And the fact that...
What is it?
The thing that makes most people happy is the feeling that you convey to them knowing that you care by listening, by feeling, by reaching out, by showing concern for what their problems are. And in some way showing that you're not perfect yourself, that you have problems too, and faults.
I didn't listen. I didn't think they had problems. I felt, why should they have problems? I take care of all problems. There's no problems. All they have to do is eat, sleep, and go to school. I take care of the rest of the problems. I didn't want to know that there was any problem with my children. I couldn't face it. It's like closing the door on a dirty room when company comes. You don't want them to see it, and this is the way. Subconsciously, maybe I knew there was something wrong, but I couldn't face it. It would break me up, I guess. I don't know.
Now, how would you do it over if you had the chance?
If I had the chance, I'd show a great deal more of physical affection, which I think I lacked. I mean, they knew I loved them, but, well, maybe they didn't know. Maybe I felt they knew. I can't remember, outside of a picture that we have, ever holding my daughter. Learn to touch. Love her. Show my love. I think the next time around, maybe, we'll make it.
I feel that I have gotten the chance of doing it over again. By that I mean I had 2 younger children at home. And if not for my son being on drugs, I probably would have been in the same rut that I always was. And God knows what would have happened to them. My son said to me, one of the reasons why he shot dope was because he felt insecure. And the feeling of insecurity, I feel I'm responsible for it because we didn't have the communication. So I feel I'm getting that second chance with my other children. But I feel there's an awful lot of room for improvement. And that's why I continue to come to the encounters. And I feel I got that chance.
I feel that I've gotten my daughter back. I feel that we can talk to each other. She can talk to me about almost anything that bothers her. And we can communicate. And I feel a lot of love from her, something I never felt before. And I think she feels the same thing from me.
How do you feel, Jack?
Well, I know that when she's out at night, I have no fears that somebody's going to knock at the door and be bringing her back.
I get along with my father now. You know, we fight. We still fight. I guess we're always going to fight. But, you know, he knows how to talk now. He knows how to express himself verbally. He hasn't hit me, you know. Like, he hasn't had a reason to hit me. I still talk to my mother a lot more. But I talk to my father now. I don't hate him. And, you know, we can just sit down and talk like human beings. You know, I love him a lot. I'm sure he loves me.
Been on the train, baby, did you hear the whistle blow? Been on a train north, baby, did you hear the whistle blow? I saw a man take a needle full of hard drug and die slow. Been on a train the same.